Hey everybody, welcome back to Obscurities and Miniatures. It is time once more for a Friday Obscurity in Literature. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you fall in the feelings and attitudes towards this, it is time for another art book. I love these books, and specifically books dedicated to phone gacha game apps. I don't know why it is. I'm not even a big fan. I'm like one of those people that tends to just, try out a game, play it for a bit, and then move on to the next. I don't have much time these days when it comes to free time, so I'm often playing them. And one of the things that I've always appreciated and enjoyed about gacha games in particular is just the sheer amount of character art that these games tend to generate. And so today we're going to take a look at Alchemy Stars. Alchemy Stars has been around for a while. I can remember when it first started because I was already playing it. And so this book is kind of near and dear to me because a lot of this stuff I am quite familiar with, and we'll take a look through it. But like I said, I'm unfortunately acquiring quite a massive backlog of various gacha game art books. And I just have not had time to get around to filming it, talking, or discussing any of them. So maybe I need to start putting these up on like Patreon where people can at least take a look at them. And I mean, it's not like they've got great art for the most part. Really interesting stuff. And again, from somebody who, while they may not be the greatest artist, I am not an artist by nature, by trade. I absolutely can appreciate the amount of work that goes into designing all this stuff. This is a crazy one. Othalonia, the world's only collectible card-based Othello RPG. Because, yeah, you need a card game based on Othello, right? It exists. It's mostly girly stuff and monsters, but that's always the case with these games. This book I absolutely love just from the sheer amount of stuff in it. Dragon League, not so much. But anyway, we're going to talk about Alchemy Stars today. Like I said, Alchemy Stars still in business, much unlike the other books I just showed you. They're all out of service. Hit their EOS, most of them a few years ago. Can be gotten those books for pennies on the dollar if you just want something to appreciate. But this is pretty brand new. Now, it is not the most up-to-date, and unfortunately, with a lot of these types of books, because of the ongoing nature of many of these gacha-based games, when we talk about gacha, it's basically gambling for grown-ups for characters in video game loot. You know, you roll the whatever slot machine of choice of the game, and you end up with a bunch of random stuff that maybe you want and probably you don't. But anyways, so Alchemy Stars, I always thought was kind of interesting and different. First of all, it's very post-apocalyptic, which is already going to get my interest. It's got a very distinct anime flair to it, lots of very colorful characters, and also very interesting characters. They didn't fit a lot of the norms, and for one thing, it actually reminded me a lot of Arknights in both its style of character, its presentation, a lot of the extra additional stuff. Originally, when it started, there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff in this game at this point. And unfortunately, so like I can tell you right now, it's missing some of the variant characters. And I also like the fact that we have both the Japanese and English names of characters. Connolly is called Kurarin in Japanese there. Sariel is Sherry. Most of the characters have both their original forms and their upgraded ones, and as you can see, there is a lot of kind of Mecha Musume stuff going on here. It's a very interesting and different game. If you haven't played it, it's much like a typical match 3 color-based tile game, except you have a very random grid that your characters walk on, and how they walk on it is going to determine what skills, effects, and monsters they actually hit. Bethlehem here. So I know for a fact I've played the game. I did play the game. I don't really play much anymore these days. I think the only games that I actually have installed on my phone at this moment are probably Arknights, Fate and Iron Saga. Those three tend to be the only ongoing ones that I really continue to stick with over the years. So like Barton here. Barton, I know for a fact, has a alternate version of him where he's not wearing his shirt and he has like green energy coming off his blades. Why I know this is because I have him in the game. But again, just very interesting character design. Vice. That's the only form of Vice that we have in this book. Miss Blanc, which I know I have. Kuma and Pangy. Yes, it is a big gangster bear and his gangster penguin buddy. Not that they're all that good at characters, but they're in the game. Constantine. Tweety, whose name in Japanese is Tata. Korgon, yeah. How many other games do you know of that you can have orca anthropomorphic characters? Not many. Seleucid was always kind of cool, I thought. At least he looked cool. Not that he was all that great in the game. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I can't remember who's who or what's what. I know I had Graham. I know I had Graham here. I've always had a thing for old man, grizzled old man characters with too many swords. That's my kind of character, for sure. I don't think I had Victoria. Istvan, I absolutely know I had. I guess you could change the colors if I remember correctly of the tiles. Taki, Benny, Faust I know I had. The traveling salesman looking guy with the demonic possessed briefcase. Leona I have. This is going to make me re-download the game, isn't it? Chainsaw Rick. Sokenbeck. We have a alligator mercenary with a Nile bird, it looks like, sitting on his back with a sniper rifle. Gabriel, I know I have. Funny thing is, I don't think I ever paid for anything in the game. It was actually quite generous for a free-to-play time game. Hero, I know I have, as I knock the camera over. Midgard, I know I have. Yao, I have. I don't have Odie, I have Aria. There's a ton of characters. I mean, like I said, I know it doesn't have everybody. I know for a fact I had like the one girl with the giant mecha robot that she could use. It would change colors, that she'd launch missiles. Beverly with her flag. I know I have her. Nemesis, I always loved with the giant ridiculous sword blade thing. And what's actually kind of nice is, so we have at least all the characters up until this book was published. But then we have a lot of the NPC art as well. Now, some of these are actually playable characters. I cannot remember this guy's name in English. Sameyama is not his name in English, I know that. But the artwork for the NPC version that shows up in cutscenes, I know is absolutely different than the one that is a playable version. So it's kind of cool to see that. We have a recap of most of the major events that happen. And again, we have a lot of the cutscene-based characters. Taki, the old man, and the Sky City. We get a lot of the actual event artwork, which is kind of cool to have. There's a lot of events. It has a similar base system compared to Arknights. And you can have various interactions and, you know, background stories with the characters. Some areas in the game are way more sci-fi than others. There's the homeland of the main character, which plays a part later on, and you get to do a lot of stuff with. And it's kind of nice to see all of that in here. Various items that you pick up. Sadly, this doesn't have a lot of the weapon artwork, so as you ascend your characters in the game, they end up with their custom signature weapons, and I know those all have their own unique artwork. We do get a bit of the character background, rough sketches, which again, something I absolutely always love to see, so that is absolutely appreciated. You can see more of how the fact that almost every character is not actually human. Getting a look at some of the crazy weaponry. Now, this is what's interesting as well. This is a Japanese book, but you'll notice that it has some English captions with the artwork. That's very surprising to me. I have no idea why. It doesn't credit any of the artists, unfortunately, as to who they are or who drew this, which is a bit of a shame. Maybe there is some names in here somewhere I just haven't come across. Aria, or whatever her name is, with her gothic blade there. And some very interesting designs. Another of the angel-based guys, which there are quite a few. Lumaopolis, I believe it was called. The father of some of the main characters, who is also a playable character. I don't know if her name was Mia in Japanese, but her weird doll thing and our tough guys. The main mode of transportation in the game, we'll skip over that, but you can see here some of the base stuff. It's giving a bit too much away, but you can actually see how it all kind of boils down to where it is located. Kind of neat to see. Now, if you don't speak Japanese, or can't read it, or don't have access to a good translator, this might not be that useful, but we do actually get a nice little breakdown of all the various factions and the baddies in the game. I'm not going to spoil too much, and I'm not going to mention too much about them in case you actually wanted to play. The story's not that bad. I mean, again, it's interesting, at least, for a gacha type game. The Wrenchers, right? The Wrenches, Rediesel. I always liked his work. I thought Revy was with them. Umbral Town. Istvan in the Umbral Town is kind of like the black market dude calling the shots, from what I remember. And then there's like this whole weird religious order thing going on, the True Order. I don't want to give it away. And then they actually have this full novelization of the game, which is kind of cool to see. I know my sub was asking me about this, so I might have him help me with that. You got some cool little artwork there, which I'm not going to spoil. But surprisingly, what I found interesting about this whole book, never mind the fact that it clocks in at almost 350 pages, is there's no actual in-game codes. A lot of these types of books tend to have, you know, free, super, super rare, whatever the highest rarity characters, you know, with some kind of serial number that you can use from the book. I know my Grand Blue books had them. Most of these games, like I'm grabbing the ones that I had here. Don't worry, I don't even think you can even access this game from a you have to have a Japanese phone to access Dragon League. My son was messing around with it one time, but yeah. See, they'll often have these access codes, and here, it's been used. Don't feel bad, you're not going to get a hold of it, I show it. But that Alchemy Stars one? Nothing. Oftentimes, you can see they have, like, you got to cut it away. Again, I think I got this book way after the fact that it came out. 2018, I don't think the game's been in service since, like, at least 2020-something. This is Soul Reverse Zero. Tons of weird stuff. So like I said, I love these things if you guys want to check some of them out. I'm going to try to start posting some nice in-depth deep dives on some of these on Patreon or Discord or somewhere, just so people can see some of the artwork, because I absolutely love this stuff. And it's really hard finding out about these, and especially if these games have gone under. Like, I know one of the ones I'm really trying to track down some books for at the moment, one of Cygame's early games. prior to Dragalia and Grand Blue coming out, they worked on a game that kind of set the pace for it, Knights of Glory, which actually Akihiko Yoshida and the crew that was working on Final Fantasy Tactics drew all the artwork for. So that's a big one for me, and I can't even find a copy in Japan. So once I do find it, I'll be sure to share it. But hopefully, if you're interested, I think if you're a fan of the game, it's a nice, solid investment. There's a lot of fun stuff. If you can read Japanese, you probably are going to get a lot more out of it than if you can't, because you can probably track down most of this artwork online, except I'd say the nice section on all of the designs and background art, which to me, honestly, makes the whole thing worth it. That's just me. So, with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities in Miniature, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.